we call this ecosystem building, and it's really complex work. It's not like a prescription that you can go in and just say, da, 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 we're going to check all these things off the list. But it's having the correct mix of people that are providing educational resources, providing opportunities for people to connect in person very often, places for people to work and gather. And I think it's also really important to provide visibility.
Hey, it's Nick Armstrong, and this is the Founded in FoCo Podcast. And each week in each episode, we get a chance to talk to an innovative mover and shaker in our community. And I can think of no better innovative movers and shakers than Startup Colorado. And I've got Margaret with me here to talk about what Startup Colorado is and does and how they do it. So Margaret, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks for having me so much. I'm really happy to be here. And so I'm Margaret. I'm the communications and editorial director at Startup Colorado. We're not a new organization, but we are a new nonprofit, and we work with rural entrepreneurs and rural ecosystem builders to help build out the vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem in Colorado.
Now, Colorado is a big, expansive place, so you've got your work cut out for you. What are the focus areas? What are some of the programs that you bring to the table?
Yeah, so we, one of the biggest things that we do is we have an online network for rural entrepreneurs. It's a private community in which entrepreneurs, mentors, funders, business support organizations can all connect online and give visibility to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So it's, kind of think of your social network, kind of big picture, but then scale it down to where it's really focused, and it only focuses on rural entrepreneurs and the people who support them. So it's free, anybody can join, and you can get in there and ask questions, find somebody to help you out with a project, find a co-founder, find a marketer. It's really exciting to see how that is growing. We have almost 1,300 members right now in every part of the state. So the idea is, just because you live in a small town in the middle of the mountains or out on the plains and you don't have all of the resources available to you within your geographic area, you can get online into this network and discover all of these other people who are doing exactly what you need, maybe just, 100 miles away. So that's one part of what we do. We're also, 25% of our mission is storytelling. So I have a podcast as well, the Startup Colorado Podcast, which I interview entrepreneurs, and it's narrative, so a little bit of a different format than this. And we also have an entrepreneur news site in which we work with freelance writers from all over the state to tell entrepreneur stories. And we give out sponsorships and scholarships to entrepreneurs and different business support organizations. So we do a lot, and it's all very diverse, but it's connected in the long run.
What a great mission to bring together resources from different communities, because you get in these small to mid-sized cities that have resources around every corner and coffee shops on every corner. And so you get that organic marketing network that sort of occurs. But here, where you're spread across the entire state, rural spaces, really small towns, mountain communities especially, a lot of that support is maybe seasonal or has some really distinct, unique challenges that have to be addressed. What's a victory story that you want to share? Because I'm sure that you have many, as just, having survived the transition from a private project to now it's a nonprofit. Tell me about some of the success stories that you've seen.
Yeah, sure. So in addition to the Entrepreneur Network, we do a lot of work in real life as well. So we are the fiscal agent behind the West Slope Startup Week, which was in Grand Junction for several years, and now it's moving to Durango. We also are constantly going around the state and supporting either events that are happening or facilitating our own events. But one thing that comes to mind that kind of crosses between real life and being online is our founder co-opetition. And we ran 2 different pilot cohorts back in 2021. And the idea here was this was an idea stage pre-accelerator program for businesses that were just getting going, but maybe weren't quite ready for other, larger accelerators. So we had different entrepreneurs from all over the state participating online, like they had weekly meetings, but then they were using the Entrepreneur Network to provide feedback to one another and kind of workshop things in that online space. And one business that comes to mind is Farm to Summit. They are a startup here in Durango that creates dehydrated backpacking meals using food, like locally farmed food that would have otherwise gone to waste. So they're kind of taking, they're taking this problem of food waste, which is related to climate change, and, nobody likes wasting food anyway, and creating a product that, people here in the mountains love to use. So they started out working with us through the founder competition. They were at the farmers market, and now today they have a storefront on Main Avenue in Durango. So it's really fun seeing those types of businesses where we can get engaged really early on, and maybe it's just us helping them make a connection to somebody else who can help them, or maybe it's, us participating in a larger way. But yeah, we try to meet people where they're at and see where they go.
Has the era of Zoom made that a little bit easier for you, or is it, do you truly try to program in place, like bring an accountant, to rural Kiowa County or something like that,
Yeah,
what does that look
totally
like?
depends. So before we started our entrepreneur network, our team was on the ground about 50, or on the road about 50% of the time. And we were going to all of these different communities and meeting people in person, having one-to-one conversations. And a lot of that was just building trust and, learning about what is happening there, instead of, kind of this like top-down organization coming in and saying, ooh, we're gonna like do all these things to help you and then disappear. So we spent the first few years just getting to know people and building those relationships and developing trust. Then whenever the pandemic happened, we launched our entrepreneur network. And we discovered that even though people enjoyed meeting online in Zoom and connecting through this online space in the network, there was still the need to connect in person. So we meet people in 3 different ways. Like there's in the entrepreneur network, there's on Zoom. So we have a lot of events using Zoom, such as our Lean Coffees, which is a organized conversation around entrepreneurship. And so those are once a month, but then they tie back into the network. And then we have real life events. So like West Slope Startup Week. And we actually just had a lean wine in Craig, Colorado, where people met up, drank wine, and had one of these structured, organized conversations around entrepreneurship.
Getting that FaceTime in this day and age is such a rare thing. And especially for rural entrepreneurs, what are the distinct challenges that you're seeing? Because we know that entrepreneurship drives an economy, whether it's a big city or a small, backwater type town. So how do we keep these small businesses alive? What are the unique challenges that you're working to solve, and how do we address those as a regional economy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different answer for every community. Like there's no one size fits all solution, but I can look at Chaffee County as an example of like what works. And basically many years ago, we went in and did a ecosystem survey where we assessed like what all of the different components were in that ecosystem. So Salida, Buena Vista, and the other towns in that area. And we published a report, gave it back to the communities, and all of these different organizations kind of took that, and they'd been doing their own work as well, and started filling out a lot of these gaps. And today you're starting to see a lot of different entrepreneurs either starting, like people who were there starting businesses, or people moving in and bringing new businesses to the area. And it's, we call this ecosystem building, and it's really complex work. It's not like a prescription that you can go in and just say, we're going to check all these things off the list. But it's having the correct mix of people that are providing educational resources, providing opportunities for people to connect in person very often, places for people to work and gather. And I think it's also really important to provide visibility to what's happening in that area. Like if you don't know that your next door neighbor is starting this incredible, business, then it's that like there's no way for you to get involved or for them to help you in some way. So that's also what you can achieve through storytelling as well. So I think it's a mix of all of these different types of work and different types of players that are working towards a greater goal, but it's going to look different no matter where you go. And you can kind of look at certain regions that maybe in the East might be a good example, where the towns are really, really spread out. And you need to kind of have a central hub where people are coming in, and that's where they're connecting. So we're seeing that a little bit like in the Sterling area happening now. So yeah, it's different everywhere you go. But the important thing is to listen and see what's there, see what's already happening, and take advantage of the people that are already building for this, instead of, kind of coming in and like prescribing a solution.
So you're in Durango. Other members of your team are spread out throughout Colorado. How many team members do you have, and what are sort of those strategic locations that you start building out that network from?
So we're down to 3 right now. So there's myself, our executive director, Taylor Grande, who also lives here in Durango. And then we have Vanessa McCran, who's in Fort Collins. Actually, she's our community engagement manager. We are in the near future going to be filling some new positions. And the idea there is to get some people in different parts of the state so that we do have a little bit of greater diversity in the regions where we're just physically present, because we can't be everywhere all the time. And it helps to have somebody in that town that understands the region and can, go to, in-person events.
Does it look like interfacing with the existing, like there might be a chamber of commerce, or there might be a general store that everybody goes to, and that's the gathering hub for the community where everybody's buying their supplies, they're buying their food, they're buying their whatever. And is that where it starts in a community? Like how can the audience who live in various places around Colorado join in to help on this effort?
Yeah, there's a lot of different places that you can look. Probably, I'm going to plug our network again. If you go to the events page on the Startup Colorado website, we are consistently sourcing rural entrepreneurship events from all parts of the state. And so see if there's something that's already happening in your community before starting something. So do a little bit of research to see what's already on the ground. But great places to look are co-working spaces, coffee shops. Definitely check your SBDC office or other business support organization, because these are, there's great people that are already on the ground working, and they very likely have something that can help you out. I actually, one of our board members, Delaney Keating, always said that the hardware store for many communities is an incubator, and you can go in there and start asking questions and learning how to build something. So a lot of it is just getting out in real life and seeing what's happening, asking people, asking around. And there's a lot happening, even in some of the smallest communities. It's just looking and seeing what's there.
Startup Colorado also offers scholarships and sponsorships, right?
Yeah, so we provide small awards to both entrepreneurs and business support organizations to either help an entrepreneur go to an event, like say they want to go to FoCo, to the Startup Week there. We could offer a sponsorship in order to get them there, to cover their travel expenses, or if there's some other event that would facilitate their networking. We've given out about $175,000 since 2019 in these scholarships and sponsorships. And I think it's about 25% of our operational budget we give away to support rural entrepreneurship.
Well, and hotels are expensive, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that's just, let me go spend $500 and hopefully learn something actionable about my business. So that's a huge service.
Yeah.
What does that look like in terms of funding? Like, are you seeking out grants from the state of Colorado, or how do you get to that amount?
Yeah, so we're pursuing a mix of funding right now that's coming from both state funds from OEDIT, other different types of private foundations that support rural entrepreneurship, so through grants, but then also just individual donations. So if you look at our website, we have a donate page, and you can contribute anything from $10 to $5 million, which would be great.
Do you find that a particular type of business has more trouble thriving than others, especially in rural communities?
No, not necessarily. It's definitely with the flexibility of being able to work from home, and use the internet. It's making it easier to start any kind of business, no matter where you are. And that's definitely what we're trying to support at Startup Colorado, is the ability for people to build businesses in the places that they call home. I would say that probably one of the biggest challenges still is just isolation. And, entrepreneurship in general is a very lonely sport. But being in a rural area where maybe you're like the only, entrepreneur that that makes it even more challenging. So, being proactive and looking for opportunities to connect with other people and tell your story. Like, don't create in silence. Tell everybody what you're doing. And who knows who's going to come out of the woodwork to help you out.
Do you find that structurally, as the ecosystem develops around the entrepreneurs, that some of the more the larger scale things like hospitals and actual infrastructure that comes along with regional development start becoming more likely in townships that wouldn't otherwise have access to those things?
So I think it's a little bit challenging for me to answer that from our experience, because we only have about 6-ish years of history doing the type of work that we're doing now to see that type of payoff. Anecdotally, yes. When you start seeing communities like Durango, as an example, growing at the rate that it is, there is more need for that type of infrastructure. And the communities that are thinking ahead and have the ability to bring in those amenities that workers, entrepreneurs, just people in general need to make it a viable place to live, like that's essential. You need good school systems, you need good healthcare. Like that's all part of the community that makes it attractive for starting a business.
Attracting those entrepreneurs makes it that much easier to have good teachers, good, more healthcare and so on,
Exactly,
mental health resources, whatever. So do you have, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, do you have a number for this? Like, is there like, oh, when we go into a community and we start connecting the dots between entrepreneurs, we see this happen, and this is a good statistic for us to take a look at in terms of investing either in more events or investing in these types of programs, or even just donating to your nonprofit?
We are starting to track that. It's still too early on for us to have those types of metrics, but we are starting to track the number of those one-to-one connections that are made, the number of businesses that are being created as a result of some sort of initiative that they participated in. And we hope to have those types of metrics someday to tell that bigger picture story. But I think everybody instinctively knows that entrepreneurship is good for a community, but it still helps to have those types of metrics to back it up.
As you say, it's very complex to get those types of stats, and I'm looking forward to finding out what y'all are accomplishing. I think that it's as you said, anecdotally very favorable. Even one connection for a rural community or a mountain community can make the difference. And as we see more distilleries or more art taking place in mountain townships, I think that there's nothing but good things down the pipeline. That just means good things for the community, the teachers, the infrastructure in those places. Managing that growth, I think, is the other side of the coin that we will have to deal with as well.
Yeah, that's a whole other set of issues that happens there.
It's a different nonprofits problem.
Yeah. But that does make me think of, certain communities that are so small that they celebrate when one family moves to town and enrolls one kid at the school, because whenever you only have 20 students at the local school and it increases by one person, that makes it, I don't know what the math is off the top of my head, but that makes it so much more dynamic, like bringing in that one person to that smaller ecosystem. And you can look at it from, just one new business can change the entire, landscape of the community when it's small.
Well, where can we find out more about Startup Colorado and your events and programs that you put on?
Yeah, so head over to startupcolorado.org. You can join our free peer-to-peer network, check out the podcast or other storytelling initiatives, and see all the events that are taking place in rural Colorado.
There's a ton. And so just to be clear, the city slickers are invited to attend as well, right?
Yes, you're invited. But we love rural entrepreneurs just a little bit more.
It's okay to be favored in that space. Well, Margaret, thank you so much for your time and joining us and all that you do for Colorado's economy. It's very important work, and we can't wait to see, some of the reports on what's coming out and how you're progressing.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, for more great entrepreneurial wisdom, visit Founded in FoCo March 1st through 3rd at Front Range Community College. And if you can't make it in person, then check out our vast online array of panels and podcasts just like this one, where you can learn some actionable advice to help you no matter where you're at in Colorado or beyond. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Nick Armstrong, and this is a Founded in FoCo podcast. For more great interviews like this one, join us at foundedinfoco.com.